Hello, everybody. I'm Arev Hambardzumyan. I'm CTO at Rafa Solutions. At first, I want to thank you all the organization of this great event and for accepting my presentation. Today, we are going to talk about designing advanced user interfaces and user experience. More specifically, we will talk about it for LabVIEW-based applications. A little bit information about our company. We have started in 2012. Currently, we are Silver Alliance partner of National Instruments. Mostly, we are specialized in building automation platforms for material testing machines. We have actually a big customer base, and we have customers almost all over the world. Still, we are missing only customers from Africa, which we hope we will get someday in the near future. Okay, so today we will talk about design principles, graphical user interface main characteristics, user guidance, and I will share some LabVIEW tips for building advanced user interfaces and having better user experience for LabVIEW applications. And I will share some examples from some of our projects that we have done with different kind of user interfaces. I will start my presentation with a quote from Paul Rand, who is an American designer who is most known for his corporate logos. He has designed logos for UPS, for IBM, and some other well-known companies. What he has said about design is that to design is much more than simply to assemble, to order, or even to edit. It's to add value and meaning, to illuminate, to simplify, to clarify, to modify, to dignify, to dramatize, to persuade, and perhaps even to amuse. So it's not only to have like good-looking UI, but it should provide some meaning. It should be helpful, and it should like attract your user, so they want to use it and they can like share this information about your products that you have provided them. So what's the difference actually between the user interface and user experience? User experience is, it means like how your software, or actually it's not about only software, but any product, even if it's a hardware product, like how it works and how it feels. That's the user experience. And user interface is how everything looks, because it's graphical interface. The main purpose of the user interface and user experience for any product is the effectiveness, which means that with your product, user can achieve their goals. The next one is efficiency, which means like how quickly they can achieve their goals. The next one is the learnability, which means that if you are providing software to the first-time users, they can easily get used to it. They can like jump and use it even without reading any manuals, any guidance. And the next one is memorability, which means that they can use it every day without like learning every time something new, because as you have built it, like if you have different screens, that they have the same layout, and if they will learn something in the software, they will use this knowledge all over the software. It's not something new will appear with every new screen. The next one is the error handling, which means that you are helping your users when they are doing some mistakes. You are guiding them how to recover from these errors. You are telling them what they have done wrong, so they can correct all their mistakes while using the software. And of course, the main purpose is user satisfaction, which means like they are satisfied and they can even like recommend to some other users, and you will get like more customers. Okay, but before building any application, any product, you should know your user. This is some example of, actually the user interface, user experience is not about software only, but about any product. For example, this is some watch which seems to have like very great design, but from the first sight, it's not that much convenient to use. It's difficult, at least for me, it's difficult to read what time is it showing now. Can I ask, like, who will buy this watch? Is everybody, like, is there anybody that actually it's not like very cheap? It's approximately $300, so it's not cheap one. So, but if you will be like attentive, actually, it's for not everybody, but it's for blind people with visual disabilities. So it means, like, I put this picture to show that you should take into consideration who is your user. For like most of the people, it's not so convenient, but for the blind people, it's something useful. Okay, so main principles of the user interface and user experience design are the user guidance, user familiarity, localization, consistency, predictable operations, and feedback. So you should consider all these factors when you are designing your user interfaces of your applications. And now we'll go one by one through these different principles just to go deeper into them. So the first one is the user familiarity, which means when you are building some user interfaces, you should at first you should keep it simple, and you should use some objects, whatever you are using, it should be familiar to your user. Of course, if it's not something specific, but if, like, let's say you have some button which is saving some configuration file or whatever it's saving, it's better to have there icon which, like, everybody knows, that without searching how they can help, what this button means, they will just see the icon and it will be very familiar for them and they will just use it. The same is like with new button, and the same is with close button. Usually I saw some application, mostly built in LabVIEW, that like this conventional close button for the Windows is disabled, and they are putting like different button and its name close to close the application. But actually it's more useful to use embedded close button, and it will be like very convenient and very familiar to users. The same is with the general layout of the screens and the menu bars. If you are using menus in your software, it's better to keep this conventional sequence of menu items like file, edit, and the last one usually is help in like most of the software applications. The next principle is consistency and predictability, which means that if you have like set of buttons, it's better if they are looking the same. If they are if they are behaving similarly, it means they should look similarly. And if they are not consistent with their functionality, then of course they should also look differently in order user can easily differentiate between functions and their appearance. The next one is about feedback and guidance. Whenever like user is doing some mistakes, let's say they have entered some incorrect equation or pressed something wrong, or haven't provided correct path for some file, or it was not found, it's always better to let the user know what they have done wrong. For example, the first image here is bad experience. It's not the good experience for the user, because here, sorry for Microsoft, but it's for the Internet Explorer that shows that it's some unknown error. So user cannot guess what he has done wrong in order he can somehow recover or do the operation properly so that he will not get any errors. So it's better always warn and to give better feedback what he has done wrong and how he can recover from the errors. The next one is about the localization, which means that if you are providing software for like broad audience, it's better if it will be localized. And in every country, they can use their own language. And actually, currently in NI Tools network, there are lots of, at least 3 or 4 localization toolkits that are available, and you can use them to localize easily your application. And like with this way also, you can widen the audience and like your customers if they are like afraid of using some software which is in French and they don't know that well French or Spanish or any other language. The next slide is about graphical user characteristics, which are the icons, menu, and graphics. When we are using icons, it's better that you are putting them with some meaningful and again user familiar items. Of course, sometimes if it's something specific, it's useful also to have the name of the button or any other item that you have. They can if it can have icon, it's better if it has also a label there. If it's not something like very familiar for the users. The next one is the menus, about which we have already talked. Here is just an example of like simple menu, which has like conventional sequence of menu items like file. Then of course graph and report is not something that is available in any software, but at least like file and help are almost in all software they are available, and the sequence is kept the same. And also you can have like sub-menus, and actually the menus are very convenient in cases where your user interface is very crowded, and it's better you put some items like insert into menu rather than have very crowded user interfaces. And the last item here is about graphics. Let's say you want to represent the temperature or something that you can represent in numeric indicator. Of course, numeric indicators are very useful, and they are like providing exact value that users can see. And also they are, you can have more indicators, like they are not area consuming. But in some cases, it's better to have them like with the sliders to have better graphical representation of the values that you want to be visible just from the first sight. And about the guidance, it's more about the helps, which like it's not only the block diagram that should be well documented, but also the software for your end user should be well documented. You should have like help files, some context help, which are like very easily accessible for the user. It's not only providing like some help file with PDF format that they can open and read, but it's sometimes helpful to have something kind of context help that they can just open from the software and easily find the information they are looking for. And here is some example of the help that we are providing in these examples. The left one is just embedded short information about the screen. It's some instructions how to use any objects on that screen. And it's embedded, it's not like floating, it's like there because there is a space to put something like there. On the top right corner is more context help, which is which you can open like after you press help and hover over the screen. It's like implemented similar to conventional LabVIEW context help, and it's effective in cases where you don't have much space to embed the help into the software screen, but they can open whenever they need it. And the last one is showing like slider. It's just floating instructions page, which they can every time open, read, and then close, and it's easily accessible from the screen. Also, the helpful items are the tips and the names, icons that you can use to provide information just from the first sight, in order they understand what this button is going to do, what is functionality, and if there is no space for any text on the buttons, then you can use you can provide more information with the tips that you can use on any controls on the LabVIEW interfaces. For the dialog boxes, which are again providing some either helpful information or some warning information, again here you have some choices where how to do it. It's not like when you are using extensively dialog boxes, it can be annoying. So you can use sometimes like just embed the warnings under the controls if they are entering some information incorrectly. Then they can just see the warning underneath of this control that they are entering information, except of like popping up each time some messages. So they still can should close this screen for the dialog boxes and continue their operation. And the same way, there can be a status bar, which again can provide not only warning information but also some information about the software itself. The same way as context help. The helpful part of the software application is also the navigation, which should be like very easy. If you have like several screens going one after another, it's always good to show user where they are currently, like in which screen now is opened, and what will happen if they will press like next or back buttons, like what screens are following current or what was which screen was opened previously. Now we will talk about like LabVIEW tips for implementing different kind of user interface and user experience for the LabVIEW applications. The first one is about the control customization. As you know, like LabVIEW has several sets of user interface items, the silver palette, classic, modern, system, but they are like very similar to each other, and you cannot differentiate your software from any other developer software because everybody using the same control palette. So it's better to have some customization. Then the next one is about the splitters, which are like very, very helpful when you are going to build resizable applications. Unfortunately, LabVIEW is not like very helpful, and it's not like very convenient for the building resizable applications. Sometimes it's not resizing or not arranging the items properly when resizing the screens. So splitters are very helpful in such cases. The next tip is to use busy cursor. It's very easy to use, and when it's easy to show that your software is currently busy, it's running, and the software and user will know at first that your application is still running, and the next one, it will not allow user to press anywhere while the software is running, and like he should not press anywhere, it's working currently. The next one is key navigation and control enable-disable, and for each of them, I have prepared some short videos, which we can now see. This video is showing like a small video to show like how to customize buttons in LabVIEW applications, so that your users will not even guess that it's built in LabVIEW. Actually, the point here is not to hide the LabVIEW, just to have some very specific, maybe specific to your company design or whatever it is, or specific to your application that you have built, some custom user interfaces. Actually, there are some tips. Mostly when we are customizing our software that we are building, we're mostly using silver palette because it has this 4 states for the buttons, like this: on, off, and 2 hovers for on and off states of the buttons. And also, when you are using the silver palette, actually, you can have icon-based buttons, and in this case, you can easily resize your buttons because icon remains the same. It's not resizing the icon, but you can resize only the button and make it like better, bigger, or even it can have like no square shape, but different kind of shapes you can provide, and still you can have very beautiful icon, which will not resize when you are making the button bigger or smaller or adjusting to your screen. So you can see we have customized all the buttons, and if you will build application, nobody will guess that it's built in LabVIEW. And the next one is about the splitters. It's again some short video showing how powerful actually the splitters are. With the splitters, you can divide your screen into as many sizes, as many parts as you wish. Here, the first part showing how your customized buttons are it's not it's pixelizing when you are changing their sizes, their shape, but then you can split your screen into different parts, which you can arrange different items which can be resized and they are useful to be resized, let's say the graphs, and some other parts which do not need to be resized because you are not going to resize your buttons. But it's better to resize your graph to be bigger to fit your screen. So you can divide into in this case we are dividing into 3 sections the main screen, and then you can define for each of these parts that you have split it with the splitters. You can define if the items on that part are going to be resized with the pane when you are changing the size of your pane, or they are going to remain the same sizes. Also, you can define when you are resizing your screen, your pane, if they are going to be arranged on the left or on the right or top, or how they are going to move when you are resizing your screen. And here, as you can see, we are resizing the screen, and none of the buttons are being moved or resized, or they are not changing their shape, but the graph is growing bigger when you are resizing the pane.
Can it grow as you
It's again a property. You can set it to grow while you are resizing, or when you have completed the resize, it will fit. It's from the pane properties. When you use splitters, you write on the pane. It's some ticks to select. The next one is about key navigation. Actually, whoever is used to work much in the programming, usually they want to have much of the key navigation. When you want to close the screen, you want to it's intuitively you are pressing escape and nothing is happening. The same is you want to log in into the system, you enter your username, password, and you just want to press enter and log in into the system. It's very useful and convenient and very familiar to any user. And the same, so you can implement in LabVIEW. Just you can add key navigation for each of your buttons. For example, you can select from the properties of the button of OK. In order it's toggle when they press enter, or when they press cancel, or if when they press escape, it will do the same functionality as the cancel. And you can attach key functionality with your buttons. And the next item, which we will show again, is about the Enabledisable structures. Actually, it's very helpful when, let's say, this is an example of conventional calculator with which users are entering equations. And actually, it's very difficult later to check the equations, if they have entered it correctly, are there correct number of numbers, are the operations following numbers or variables or whatever is there. It's difficult to manage later if they will do mistakes. This way, we're like disabling the buttons, whatever, it's not allowed. Like if you have entered some operation, let's plus or minus, then it should follow with some either variable or it should be followed by some constant number. So we are disabling whatever is not allowed to be pressed. And the same is with any button or anything that user should not access until some conditions are met. So you can just disable in order not to do any like additional checks or open some dialog boxes and explain what he has done wrong while using the software. And the last one is about the busy cursor. As we have already talked, it's like very convenient to let user know that the operation of the software is going on. It's still processing, let's say, some data, and it will prevent user from pressing any other button. Let's say if you are reading some file and you are going to like read big files, then process it and show it on some graphs, it's better to know to let user know that it is still in the operation and still he cannot view or close the software if it is still operating. And I will provide some examples. It's here we have used like conventional buttons, graph, and like all the objects are from LabVIEW without any customization, and this looks like very familiar to the user, to LabVIEW developer actually. But if you will customize, it will look fully differently. You can add like icons, change the colors, and it will be like more user-friendly, and your user will have better experience while using the software. And here are also some examples. Some parts were already used in the previous slides of the presentation, some buttons that I was referring to. These are again some simple software for data logging, for control, and it's very useful and it's very providing user-friendly interface for whoever is not like very familiar with in that field. They want just to configure some channels and generate some signals without knowing much about LabVIEW or whatever is under the hood of the software. This again some example of software. It's like more colorful. It's because it's for students. It's educational software. That's why we have used some more attractive colors for younger people. And again, another software, again, where we have used a slider for the help and icon-based buttons. Okay. Thank you. If you have questions. Any questions?
You speak about providing user with help, and in my experience, there is a possibility just open help.
Yes, just PDF.
Created in Windows style, but it's enormous work. Usually we have no resources to do it. And I'm guilty. I just provide this help menu with opening a PDF file. So do you know some tools which could be convenient for us to create some other formats of menu which could be easy to create but more functional than PDF file?
Actually, sometimes we are using the CHM files, this Microsoft Help file format. And it's again useful because in LabVIEW you can call exactly the page that you want to be opened. So in order not to go into programming to program some context help or this kind of screens, maybe you can use the CHM format help files, and for each of the screens, if they are pressing like Control H, open that screen. The same way as it works for this LabVIEW help. When you're opening from the context help, you are going to the details help, it's opening this context help, and it's opening the exact page where it's located information about that VI if you are looking information for that VI functionality. So maybe you can use context help. And it's, there are some free editors to create these help files. Actually, it's taking the same time as you would create in Word. There are some converters from Word to CHM format. Mm-hmm.
But there is also a fantastic tool mostly used for Python, which is Sphinx, which allows you to easily create very nicely navigable help files. And it's possible to install it on the same machine, and it just opens a web browser and allows you to navigate very, very quickly. Called Sphinx. Sphinx.
Thank you. Where do you find all the nice graphical icons? Because someone else needs to draw them? Observers cannot really drawing? Okay.
Yes, usually we are drawing if it is something specific, but there are also free sites where you can get PNGs for different icons. Then we are just putting them into these buttons. Actually, we have a designer in our company who is building all this. Because if you are a programmer, then it's time consuming. But actually it's worth it, because whenever like your customers see something very different, very attractive, it's worth to invest time into customization of items.
Can you go back one slide to your example?
This one?
Yeah, that one. Lower right, the vertical tabs. Where did you get that?
The top?
Yeah, where'd that come from?
It's slider. It's there is this button with arrow. When you press, it goes.
No, how do you get the? So you press a button and that thing comes up and you've got the vertical tabs, the vertical tab container.
These are just buttons.
They're just buttons? Oh, okay.
These are buttons. So
that's cool.
Actually, this is a small screen. As I remember, it's a cluster, and we're changing the position of the cluster, and we have this like shrink indicators and buttons. When you press, then we're just doing this operation.
I was hoping for a handy container, but okay. Good job.
Oh, not vertical.
Okay, thank you.